And I am Tamara Scott. Thank you for joining me today for this segment of Tamara Scott Live. I guess is what we're calling it. If you've got an idea for the show, send it in, because honestly, I'm not here for the name of a show. We didn't come up with a show and then say, hey, what are we going to fill it with? There's so much that needs to be told. There's so much truth that needs to be heard that we stepped into this, and we're doing all those details like a name and a website later. So any of you who have ideas on that, send them in. You can email me. Let's use Tamara. Hey, Ryan, don't we have a Tamara Scott email, a Tamara Scott Live email? So they could send it to tamarascottlive@gmail.com. There we go. So now you can send it to tamarascottlive@gmail.com. And if you have suggestions, if you have ideas, go ahead and let us know. But we just wanted to jump in when we could and get information to you, because so many parents in America don't know about Common Core, which is what we're focusing on right now. But we're not always going to talk about Common Core. Hopefully we're going to get this taken care of and we can move on to something else. Right now it's just very pressing because it's a great time for most states to back away from it. And many states are deciding, even though they had adopted the standards, now that they're seeing how good they're not, they're pulling away. And we'll talk about that with our guest, Dr. Mary Byrne, in just a minute. But the purpose of this show is to help you live God's word in today's world. It's to help you when the headlines hit home. And it doesn't matter what the topic is. We may at some point get to talk about something fun, like decorating your house for Christmas. Who knows? But right now, we're talking about all those things we think you need help hearing, those things that you're not hearing about in the mainstream media, and just helpful hints that can help you with your day. I'm pleased to say that here we are on air in the midst of a government shutdown. We were still able to facilitate today and get ourselves on air. And I was interested to see Jan Morgan put up on her post that, interesting enough, not only has Congress exempted itself from the horrible side effects of Obamacare, but apparently they're exempting themselves from a government shutdown as well, and will be still drawing a check. This is the problem with all these political games. It doesn't hurt those who make the policy. It hurts the little guy. It hurts you and me. It hurts the janitor. It hurts those of us who are trying to do what's right, who are just trying to get by. And this is the frustrating thing. Do I agree with the shutdown? I think it's high time we do something. And my hope was that they would defund Obamacare and not shut down the government. They've done the opposite, but we're working towards that. I will say, in the midst of the shutdown, heroes were able to shine yesterday. If you saw the news, World War II veterans from Missouri, and there were some from Story County, Iowa, who went to see the World War II Memorial. These are World War II veterans who went to see the World War II Memorial. If you understand the World War II veterans, they probably won't be taking many more trips to D.C., right? And the honor flight is where we raise money to send them without them having to pay for their service that they've already done for our country in a great way, actually for the world. When they got there, the memorials were closed. Government shutdown. Not only were they closed, but there were security guards the government was paying to make sure that no one got into the memorials. How much money did that cost? How much more does it cost to put guards in place to make sure that nobody walks through an open park? But thankfully, a few individuals were willing to step up and make sure that they still got in. Some are calling it polite civil disobedience, but I am pleased to tell you that among those were, and I will give Tom Harkin credit, not that he wasn't on the floor saying something foolish later in the day or earlier in the day, and he was, but he also was part of the group with Republican Representative Bill Huizenga out of Michigan, Louis Gohmert, one of my favorites out of Texas, Steve King, another one of Iowa's favorites, Representative Stephen Palazzo from Mississippi. They organized the intervention, and I think the person who called for it was Pete Hoekstra out of Michigan. He was just flat out irritated when he heard that they were not going to be able to get there. And so he emailed or texted a few of his friends, and I'm told another favorite, Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann, joined in. She was out for her morning walk, joined in, and I don't know if they distracted the guards or just opened the barricades, but my thanks to all of them for making sure that the men and women who served us in World War II, who saved this nation and the world, were able to at least be honored in a very small way. One more thing. I'm casual today. I hope that doesn't offend anybody. But you ever have those days where you just need a casual day? I hope that doesn't offend any of you who are viewing. But and certainly no disrespect to my fine guest. But every so often you just have to have one of those discombobulated days and have a little fun. And today is that day for me. So joining me is Dr. Mary Byrne. I met Mary when she was speaking at a conference in Kansas City just recently. It was a Common Core forum, and those who had arranged it, I will say, did what they could to be fair. They had people who were pro and people who were con, and it was interesting to me in that forum that the people who were supposed to be pro kept reminding us that parents needed to be involved, that parental control and parental input and parental awareness was the key. I was taken back by that because those were supposed to be the people who are supporting Common Core. And if you know what Common Core is, it's not local control. So Mary is a co-founding member of the Missouri Coalition Against Common Core, and you can go to that website. You can do a little search for Missouri Coalition Against Common Core. She has an MED, a Master's in Education in Instructional Design, and doctorate in Special Education from Teachers College, Columbia University. She spent the past 35 years in education. Her first 10 years as a special educator teaching all grade levels from parent-infant programs through K-12. The last 25 years as an instructor in undergraduate through graduate levels, including work as a coordinator in curriculum, assessment, accreditation, and her current professional interest in differentiated instruction for all students in the regular classroom and supporting parents as their children's most important teachers. So I am very pleased to welcome Dr. Mary. And Mary, am I saying your last name correctly, Dr. Mary Byrne?
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for taking time out to join me today. And thank you for your work in educating the rest of us on Common Core. It was very informative being in the forum in Kansas City recently. And you're going to be in another, is it a forum? Is it a seminar this weekend in Kansas City?
It is a 5-hour workshop. That's the way we've organized it there. We have, as a grassroots group, approached Americans for Prosperity and asked if we created the program and gathered the speakers, could they help us to publicize and organize the logistics of conferences in the major cities of Missouri, because we have had such a thirst for information from local communities. There's several of us that do speaking throughout the state, and we are at breakneck speed getting to private groups who invite us and say we can't get answers from our school district or we can't get answers from our state board of ed. And trust me, there's a lot of information to be had that our government agencies are not sharing with the public, and yet the public pays for this. So we decided we needed to be a little more efficient, and as much as it is wonderful to go to these local communities because it's like planting a core group that can actually approach their school board, stay in the district, keep the I don't want to say pressure, but the dialogue going with school administrators, because the truth is they haven't been told the full information either. And so it's not about local school administrators withholding information from parents. They're sharing information that they get from their state levels, and it's incomplete, I will say, and many times slanted towards the administrative agenda of the state. So we're doing the best we can to be efficient for those areas that we haven't yet been able to visit, to be able to come to our central workshops. We'll have one in Kansas City this weekend, another in St. Louis, and then the final one at the end of the month is in Springfield, Missouri. And that gives families an opportunity. If they can't come to the one nearest them, they'll have another opportunity, but they'll have to travel a little bit to get to the second one. And we're hoping for to equip people with the information they need to go back into their local districts and spread the word.
Okay.
So that's how that works.
And so for folks who want more information, is there a website or a link where they can click on and get the activities where you'll be?
Absolutely. If you go to the Missouri Coalition Against Common Core website, it'll lead you to the Americans for Prosperity link where you can get more information. You could probably also contact Americans for Prosperity at Missouri, and I can send you that, and maybe you can post it for us.
Okay, very good.
Uh-huh.
All right. And so, Mary, on some of these topics, you mentioned that people are not able to get information, and I would say that's probably very true. We have a campaign, if you will, in Iowa right now. People are trying to write to the NGSS, that's the New Generation Science Standards.
Oh, yeah.
And they're seeking out information, and I'll be upfront with you. This is not, I'm busy. With all the hats that I wear, this is not my area of expertise, nor one that I really wanted to be involved in. My kids are done. They're graduated. I'm an empty nester. This is not where I want to be talking right now.
You and me both. I had no clue. When I sent my daughter off to college, I knew I'd be starting some kind of new phase in my life. And I was waiting to get the call. What should I be doing with the next couple of decades? And frankly, I was looking to spend some time gardening and getting the pictures together that I'd gathered over the 12 school years with my daughter, and I thought I was going to have some quiet time. But I ended up taking a job as a coordinator of curriculum assessment and accreditation in a university. And here I am getting information about Common Core through a daily newsletter that comes through my email. I'm not getting it from my official offices, that I have to account for, be responsible to in keeping our curriculum current. And I'm wondering, why am I not learning about Common Core through official channels? It was just an interesting experience, so that when I came back to Missouri, I needed to know how this got going, and started doing some intensive research about it. And I was shocked, because in all my years of education, even though my professional part of being either a student or a teacher, my professional years were spent all knowing that the federal government had some hand to play in education. It was always model programs and demonstration programs. In other words, setting up examples that respected state rights to choose whether those examples were right for them, or model curricula that districts could access and say, we can assume some of this, but not all of it, because not all parts work with our population. Those are called demonstration programs or model curricula. This gave no choice, was not a model, had no researchers' endorsement for it, except from those people who said, from the organizations that development, that this was research-based. And I'm going, I've never heard of it, and yet this is suddenly adopted, and I mean suddenly adopted by 45 states. How can that be? And then I did, like I said, some serious investigation, and I found out. This was, if you go back to a Dear Hillary letter that was written by Mark Tucker in 1992 at the beginning of Bill Clinton's administration. Mark Tucker basically lays out a blueprint for the fundamental transformation of American education from standards of opportunity to standards for outcome-based education. And we're talking, when you say essential skills or skill-based education, that's exactly what it means. It doesn't mean those higher academic content standards that's always been associated with competition to get into those schools that were highly selective.
Now, Mary,
And, yeah.
we've got callers stacking up. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to jump over to a phone line. And we've got a hard break coming up here, but I'm going to go with Ryan. Can I go with our Orlean from California? All right, Orlean. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm so glad that you have Dr. Mary Byrne on your program.
Thank you.
I've been getting some amazing emails from her through this network of people across the nation that are fighting Common Core. And I started a group here in California called Californians United Against Common Core. And one of the questions that we get when we go and speak to our school boards trying to fight this and make them realize how opposed we are to this, some of them are actually listening, are asking us, well, what would you replace Common Core with?
Right.
So that's what I would like to ask Dr. Byrne.
Well, I will tell you that here in Missouri, I get that question often. And we have a history here that maybe you have a similar history in California. In 2008, a letter was sent from 56 mathematicians, not math educators, mathematicians, who begged our Commissioner of Education to align the math standards to the National Mathematics Advisory Panel report. And included, as a matter of fact, the writer, the author of that letter, was President Emeritus of Missouri University. That letter was never responded to, and the very next year, Governor Nixon signed on to the state fiscal stabilization funds, which basically was the pathway down to the adoption of Common Core. At that same time, there was a group of over 400 faculty and classroom teachers, and according to our Missouri statutes, our curriculum standards must have a majority of active classroom teachers writing our state standards. So there was already a curriculum developed by these active classroom teachers and Missouri faculty, adopted in 2008 and shelved because Common Core came down the pike. So what I would do is go back to those documents and reconstitute a committee of faculty and active classroom teachers that 5 years later could review that work. And I will tell you that the goal of that curriculum was college readiness, okay, which is different than college and career readiness, which actually says all students, regardless of their career paths or professions. And see, there's a difference between a career and a profession.
Right.
And so a college and career readiness doesn't give you the academic content for professional paths. And that's what Dr. Jim Milgram in California has been telling the nation. There's not enough algebra for those students who have the capabilities for math-intensive professions to actually be equipped with that before graduating under the Common Core system.
Orlean and Mary, can I put you both on a brief hold? We need to go to a break right now. We need to go with our sponsors. But if you can stay with us, we'll continue this conversation. We just touched on the college and career readiness, and I do want to talk about this because we hear a lot.
Absolutely.
We hear a lot about this topic, and I think we need to touch about some of the details on this. And we've got more callers on the phone if they can wait as well. So we'll be right back after this message. Thanks for staying with us. I am Tamara Scott. It's Tamara Scott Live.
Yes, now your favorite programs on Webcast One Live can all be watched and listened to on any Android or Apple device, your phone, tablet, or iPad. Yes, your favorite shows on Webcast One Live are available live or on podcast wherever you go. Let me introduce to you some of our great shows.
Shalom. Every week on Understanding the World with Rabbi David Kaufman, we'll talk about issues in the Middle East, issues related to the Jewish tradition and religious traditions in general, and keep you up to date on exactly what's going on around the world. You may know some of the story, but you haven't heard all of the story until you've heard it on Understanding the World with Rabbi David Kaufman and our special guests we have on every week.
Hi, I'm Doc. You listen to me every Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m. on Doc and Lefty radio podcast program, where we discuss all the relevant topics of the day, including state, local, and national politics. My partner in crime, Lefty, often likes to have a little bit of conservative justice served upon him, so please turn in for the fireworks every week from 6 to 7 p.m. on Tuesdays at webcast1live.com. Thank you.
So when you want to watch your favorite Webcast One program, remember, there's an app for that. You know, there's an app for that.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit! You're our hero!
Well, I am Tamara Scott, and thank you for spending time with us. We're talking about Common Core, stopping Common Core. On the phone line with me as our guest is Dr. Mary Byrne. Mary is with the Coalition Against Common Core in Missouri, an educator herself. And then calling in, we've had a couple callers so far, and I haven't even given the number out, so let me do that. If you'd like to join us from anywhere around the world, you may do so. 855-244-0077, 855-244-0077, and we'll get you into the conversation as quickly as we can. We've just been talking about college career and readiness. That's something we're hearing a lot of here in Iowa, and I know that that's also part of the Common Core discussion. I'm going to pop up this book because the caller on the phone is the author of this book, and I'm just honored and delighted that she called in as well. Orlean. And Orlean, tell me, how is it that I pronounce your last name?
My husband is from Germany, so a good German says Kurla, but I answer to Coeli, Kahuli, whatever.
Very
so
good.
Unusual.
Very good. So say it correctly for me one more time.
Kurla.
Kurla. There's no R in there, but Kurla.
There isn't. There's an umlaut over the O in Germany that makes the O sound like a UR, so that's how you get Kurla.
Okay. And this book is called Common Core, A Trojan Horse for Education Reform. And we can get these for you. Orlean can get these for you. Is there a website you can give out real quick?
Yes, you can find it at our official website to fight Common Core, cuacc.org in California, or the publisher is smallhelmpress.org.
cuacc.org is a great way to get it. The publisher is very workable as well. And we have some of them here for those of you locally, and maybe we can work out a deal, Orlean, that we can give people a great deal through the show, a special deal through the show if they order the books because of hearing it here on air with us, with Tamara Scott, and what we've done for Truth for Our Time for some time now. Our guest, Mary Byrne. Mary, thank you for staying with us.
Oh, my pleasure.
And so we were just talking about the Common Core. Now, you had just touched on something when you said not all students will be college ready. Now, explain this to us, because I think the way it's being presented is most parents are thinking every student's going to come out of high school ready for a college education.
Right, and that's pretty typical of how this is being promoted, is that they leave you with the impression that your current understanding of what college is remains intact. But the definition of college by the authors of the Common Core Standards is actually first-year community college. So if you read, I mentioned Mark Tucker as the author of the Dear Hillary letter. Mark Tucker sat on the feedback committee of the English Language Arts Standards, and former employees of Mark Tucker's America Choice. Now, they're still with America's Choice. This is Phil Darrow and Sally Hampton. They're still with America's Choice, but Pearson Publishing Corporation now owns America's Choice. So, see, there's this very direct connection between Mark Tucker and Pearson. Anyhow, Mark Tucker and his very small group of insiders were involved in the development of these Common Core standards. And then Mark Tucker, in just this year, released a report called What Does It Really Mean to Be College and Work Ready? That was published in May 2013. And he says specifically that you don't need second-year algebra for many of the careers that are available for employment. So what we need to do is, reduce our expectations to what the careers really need for their employees. And that is a worldview. The worldview by Mark Tucker is that education is for outcome-based work training, which is different from the American tradition of education is for opportunity. And so the contrasting story would be for someone like Dr. Ben Carson, who hit the headlines this last spring at the prayer breakfast in Washington, D.C. Dr. Ben Carson was the son of a single mother. Now, she had married very young and then separated from her husband. But the point is, very early on in his life, he was raised in a single-head household, raised in poverty, and it was public school teachers who recognized his gifts and talents. And trust me, they didn't come out until about fifth grade. This was a young man who had not found himself. But his mother, who herself was uneducated, did two things that were reported over and over as being critical in his formation. One is she cut out television. They watched a few special programs, but television was not an entertainment device. And two, she insisted they read 3 books a week and write her book reports. And then he found he actually enjoyed reading, and it released him. And then he started showing curiosity, and the public school teachers invested in him themselves. And it is because of that nurturing by teachers that he was able to learn about the world and then give to the world. That is his story. He's very generous with it. He is the neurosurgeon who separated the first set of Siamese twins, separated at the chest. There's a movie about him called Gifted Hands. And for me, that is what American education was designed to do, was to equip anybody to rise up to be all they could be. And there was no class distinction. It was about opportunity. The worldview in this workforce planning, outcome-based education is not about opportunity that anybody could take advantage of. It's about ensuring everybody has the same content.
Could I interject something?
Yeah.
And then I will get off so other people can have the chance to call in. But my husband, having grown up in Germany, knows exactly what you're talking about. At age 12, he had to take something called the Abitur, which is the test that determines if students can go on to college or go on to a trade school. They have the opportunity to take it twice, but if they fail it, that they're destined for a trade school. And just as you mentioned with this Ben, he was a late bloomer, as a lot of people are, and many people don't really know what they're doing in life, and they're not motivated till later. But in Germany, there was no choice. You either did well on this test at age 12, or your destiny was determined to go off to a trade school. And fortunately, my husband did well. He went on and got 4 masters and a PhD, but he knows himself how unfair that is. And this is what America is now being changed to, is this European model where we will only have 2 choices. And exactly what you mentioned about Mark Tucker, this was his plan all along, to
Yes.
prepare our children either for a trade school or a college bound. And as you also mentioned, I totally agree, the college is being lowered. Their only expectations are for a limited lower junior college level, and that's what Common Core is all about. And thank you so much for letting me come on for a few minutes, and I will get off now so some other people can call in.
Orlean, thank you for joining us. That's Orlean Corley, and I'm not probably ever going to say that right until I put it in phonetic spelling right in front of me, but she has written the book Common Core, A Trojan Horse for Education Reform, and you can get that if you just go to cuacc.org, and we'll help you get that on here as well. I think we'll have to talk to Orlean and see what we can do. I'm going to have to make another order. I ordered 25 of these just last week, received them, and I'm running out, so I'm going to have to get some more.
That would be wonderful. We'd be happy to give them to you at a special discount as well.
That would be great. We could offer that to our Truth for Our Time, our Tamara Scott Live listeners. That would be perfect. I want to come back to something, and Orlean, you're welcome to stay on as long as you can with your time, your schedule. You're welcome to stay on. But Mary, I want to touch on something, both of you actually. You've touched on it that, one, college is not going to be the same as we think it is. But there's even more to this. We're not talking about the CAST, C-A-S-T-E system that we've seen in other third world countries, that we've seen, that we're so thrilled we don't have here in America. And in fact, that's exactly what this is bringing in. When you're going to start children, testing them, assessing them at an early age, even in preschool, we haven't even talked about the data mining in this program. I think we're going to focus on that on our next show next week on Wednesday at 10 a.m. And by the way, if any of you are listening in, you can send these podcasts to friends. We're putting them, they're at webcast1live.com, webcast1live.com. And then we also have them at Tamara Scott Live on the YouTube channel. And we'll break them up into segments, I think, in the future for you as well. So you can just do a 20-minute segment if there's something in particular you liked. But I want to talk about this. First off, college has been dumbed down. Just flat out college. It's more of a drinking experience. It's everything except young, refined men and women being trained with discipline. It is how much can you drink? How much can you party? And honestly, when I hear the dorm room situation, here's my thought. Whenever is my child going to need that same experience unless they're an inmate in a prison or an asylum or a hospital? Whenever will they be forced to live with strangers again in a group setting like that?
And how they have changed the dorms to be co-ed now so that you have boys and girls using the same showers. It's incredible.
It's spookier than that. My daughter, in her first 6 hours, when she got to her college dorm, a roommate she had talked about, issues they had discussed, thought they had an agreement, was informed that the boyfriend was coming. And so the boyfriend was going to spend the night, and my daughter would have to deal with a strange man in the same bedroom 4 or 5 feet away.
Wow.
And the security, we happened to speak to the security officers about this. Here was their first instruction. And this is off topic from Common Core, but good instruction for parents. For all of you who just sent freshmen off to the campus, understand you need to be in contact with your student every day. They are in a battle for their very soul on our college campuses. But here's what they told us. That boyfriend could spend 3 nights, up to 3 nights. Now, at a 4th night, he had to go somewhere else. But he had 3 nights he could spend. My husband said much after that, he should pay dorm expenses. But that was the rule of the campus. And many parents we shared that with were just shocked to find out that's the rule on several campuses. And not only was she told, don't push your values on your other roommate, but that she had to accept her other roommate's values.
Well, and that gets to the worldview that I was getting at. Self-governance and self-determination are eroded on a number of levels, and the fact that she cannot self-govern when she's, on the property of the university is exactly an example of the submission to the bureaucratic rulemaking that is going on. So it's not just about a dumbing down, or you might say an erosion of mutual respect for rights on a campus. But what I was referring to was the deliberate removal of content from academic standards, so that it's not you have to pay close attention to the words. We're not talking about academics in terms of the opportunity model that we're used to. We're talking about essential skills. And when you say essential, you mean very, very basic, not advanced. And that these essential skills have to do with careers, not necessarily professions. And what I discussed before was Dr. Jim Milgram, it's from Stanford, was the only mathematician on the validation committee for these standards. And he says there's not enough Algebra 2 in here to prepare students for trigonometry and pre-calculus.
And that's all the way through high school. They just simply will not have.
Exactly. And when you read the Dear Hillary letter from Mark Tucker, his plan was that these essential skills were going to be available. All students should be able to reach them by the age of 16. And if students did well, then there would be an opportunity for free college and 2 more years of high school. And in essence, you would have a new model of training, career training, being that senior year and what would be, in our minds, the 2-year community college.
Mary, you and I both know individuals who have college degrees who are not working in a field that has anything to do with their college degree.
And again, that was self-determination, and I used the example. So what if I want to go to university as an 18-year-old, study English Lit, and then become an employee of my parents' floral shop? I have self-governance, self-determination. But what these data gatherers want to know is, did you enter a career that is associated with the training you received? Well, what business is it of the government?
Exactly. And how would this have affected an Einstein?
Well, you heard my story at the conference. Einstein was nonverbal. As a very young child, his family thought he had developmental delays. He eventually, went to school, but was very happy to play by himself. So this business of evaluating behaviors and your attitudes he would have scored low because he did not play well with others. Let's put it that way. And then, like I said, at age 5, he was ill. His father gave him a compass, and he was fascinated. You could see the passion in this, in the kind of description of his response to studying the compass and having this aha moment that there were invisible forces acting in the world. And he didn't call it magnetism, but he could see it on the needle. And that became a seminal moment for the rest of his life. Well, he describes his thought processes as seeing in pictures first, and then adding words onto it. And I mentioned another very bright woman, Temple Grannon, who describes the same kind of thought process and how she goes about communicating. And she needs to draw things out first. She struggled with oral communication and presentation and all those things they're trying to say every student must be able to do on schedule. And as it turns out, she knows she is diagnosed with Asperger's, and Einstein had echolalia, so a behavior repeating something he said, sometimes to entertain himself, but sometimes it just kind of comes out. Well, again, that he would have been driven into speech pathology to deal with his echolalia. He had a non-stellar performance in school, eventually dropped out. Now get this, because it was not interesting to him. He loved math and consumed math, and his family had university students come and spend their Sabbath, although they weren't terribly religious. Once a week, they would bring a Jewish student to come and have dinner with them. And these very high intellectual students would share their books with him on math, and that's what he wanted to concentrate on. So he was not good at anything he didn't like. He eventually graduated from school and went into, he was homeschooled for several years too. He told his parents, I'll self-teach, but please don't send me back there. They agreed to it. He eventually goes through the process of graduating, gets to his secondary program, again, performs in a non-stellar way. And if you're doing averaging of numbers, you can see somebody who has high performance in one area averages it with a low performance in another area, your average is going to be non-stellar, and that's pretty much what Einstein was like. Until at age 21, while he's working as a clerk, he writes the papers on the theory of relativity. So, he just unfolded and developed in his time as God made him, and there was no timetable he needed to meet. This was his experience as a human being. And when you read Mark Tucker's work, it refers to people as human capital, so that there's an economic model here. You're either an asset or a liability, and we're going to make sure you're not a liability because we're going to give you that education, and then you can enter the workforce. Mark Tucker's work is all about a teaming up of employers in the government, which is very, very different from our American model of self-determination, self-governance, and being human beings endowed by our Creator with inalienable rights.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what's made this country so great. If
we don't understand that this is in direct conflict with that, then we're vulnerable to being steamrolled over. And I've read this morning, I got a chance to read your Iowa GOP platform. Right. This is in direct conflict to many of the positions you have in your statement.
You're absolutely right. And it's also the resolution, the Republican National Committee passed a resolution in April that was working away from Common Core, helping states repeal Common Core and the funding of Common Core. We thank Senator Grassley, our own Iowa senator, who wrote a letter on Common Core, I think about the same time. So we need to take a break right here. We'll stay together. We'll be right back after this. Stay with us, and you can call in your questions, 855-244-0077. When we come back, we'll focus a little bit on where we could be with the Iowa governor and what we could do in Iowa. We know we're talking about the new generation state standards here, but there are so many issues of this. It's a lowering of standards. They are not state standards. And as Dr. Mary Byrne just told you, it is in direct contradiction to our Declaration, our Constitution, and everything that makes America great through our creativity and our individualism. It will all be gone with this Common Core. It is that drastic. I'm not being an alarmist. It is that drastic. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershad.
I am administrative manager.
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed rider it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm going to take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
And thank you for joining us. I am Tamara Scott. Joining me today is Dr. Mary Byrne, co-founder of Missouri Coalition Against Common Core. You can go to that website at MO Against Common Core, MO Against Common Core. And Mary is an excellent speaker. And if you have the video on this podcast, if you're able to click in and watch, as some people do, you can see she's absolutely wonderful in presentation to have come speak to a group. So legislators, I think she would be right in her element speaking to legislators or to your Department of Education folks, but even more to your parents. Just did an excellent job speaking to this forum in a panel where there were pro-Common Core speakers who, Mary, I don't think they did a very good job at all. I was a little concerned in the beginning of what we might be in for. And I don't know if anyone else picked up on it, but the one thing I kept hearing them say was that you need parental involvement, parental approval, parental awareness, that people needed to watch what their students were learning. And I thought if that's the best you can do in promoting Common Core, to me it was like they felt forced to promote it, but they were trying to warn people against it. I don't know. We were talking about the individual creative freedom that is endowed by our Creator, the rights, the liberties that are talked about in our Constitution and our Declaration, and how this totally changes this system.
Well, and the real phrase is pursuit of happiness.
True.
You, as an individual, pursue happiness. And that is exactly what they were saying. The government has no right to infringe on. So in finding yourself in understanding who you are as an individual, what your gifts and talents are. And trust me, I am not knocking community college. I think that there are wonderful programs, but they are skill-oriented careers. And there is a place for more extended learning in four-year colleges that require more, you might say,
specialized
study, but also the humanities. If people aren't cut out for reading lengthy novels, I get that, but those kinds of assignments in the four-year college are what make reflective statesmen. Okay? And so if you eliminate the opportunity to read our American literature or to read the classics of the ages, those are the pieces of literature that were cited by statesmen to say this is the human condition and this is what's noble behavior in the human condition. And part of our concern about the Common Core English Language Arts standards is that when you're reading 70% informational text in high school, you don't have the opportunity to develop the discussions around the classic literature that show us what it is to be noble in our humanness.
The reflective thinking will not be there. The stories, the parables, the wisdom, the Shakespeare will be gone. What someone said is this Common Core standard will have the same effect as if we destroyed 50% of the classic literature.
That's true. And so if all you're concerned about is, will I be able to fill my stomach with pay that I get from a career, then this is what you get. You get Common Core. But if the goal, and that's why worldview is very, very important to understand, if your goal is to transmit your culture of American society, of the best of what is noble in humanness, and mentorship by those people who know how to discuss this with younger generations, then we must preserve our classic American curriculum and reject the worldview that underlies Common Core.
And I'm going to interject. I'm going to announce something here for you. If you're in the Iowa area and you want to come to an event this weekend, this Saturday, Pastor Matt Floyd with Calvary Baptist Church is holding a rally at the state capitol at 2 p.m., a rally at the state capitol. It's back to the beginning rally, be talking about the founding documents and the Declaration of Independence and, hey, the Bible, one of those founding documents that had a great influence on our founding fathers and the writings that we now revere and look back to. In those writings, Mary, many of those, the penmanship is unique to begin with. The language is a little bit Old English on some of them, but cursive. Talk to us about the standards on cursive writing that will no longer be.
Well, I really can't understand why it was so important for these authors of Common Core to eliminate, cursive. But I have seen that in the schools. What they did when they designed these standards, I'll tell you what I found. If you go to the Achieve website, Achieve is the organization that is responsible for these standards. There are three.
And was that one funded by Bill Gates?
Oh, all of these are funded by Bill Gates.
Okay.
There's three that are in cahoots. One is the National Governors Association. The other is the Council of Chief State School Officers. So you can see where your State Board of Ed is tied into this. And the third is Achieve. And they're all Washington-based. Achieve is actually a brainchild of the National Governors Association. And so what they do is they accept these grants, not only from Bill Gates and others, but also from U.S. Department of Ed. And the three of those organizations got together in 2007 and 2008 and started a series of summits, meetings, to determine how they were going to basically put in place this grand plan that has been floated in Congress and the American education system for the last 30 years. And like I said, Mark Tucker at the helm. And there are a series of publications, but one starting in 2004 was the American Diploma Program. And states could voluntarily go to Achieve and have their state standards compared to this American Diploma Program, which is based on the same model of career outcomes. And if states, I have nothing to say as long as you respect state sovereignty. If that's what states want and the legislature is aware of it, which is different than what happened in Common Core, but if the legislature is aware of it and all people are on board, fine. But this American Diploma Program was the seed for Common Core. And you can go to a publication on their website called, I'll get it for you. But one was Ready or Not. That was their first one. And then the second one, I'll get the title for you. But it admits that the American Diploma Program is the Common Core. And what happened is that was developed by economists who made projections for the labor market in 5 states across the country and then reviewed the transcripts of the jobs associated with their projections. Okay, so we're looking at high school transcripts. That's why you're seeing the outcomes that you're seeing here is that they're not reviewing higher level, the transcripts of higher level professionals here. Although there is supposed to be some integration into some professional level work. When you say you're looking at high school transcripts, then that's what you get. Not what you need to shoot for, but the status quo. Now, my question is, how do these economists do head fakes or whatever? How do they understand what the real market's going to be? How do they make adjustments on a dime to the curriculum for those careers and labor market projections in the other 45 states that weren't part of their analysis?
Well, and let's say they do. Let's say they're absolutely 100% correct. But who's going to allow for the Facebook niche when the gentleman created Facebook? What a phenomenon it's been. But that wouldn't have been in their projections. That wouldn't have been what. So this is what it not only, like you're saying, there's no way that they can adequately project for 50 states of which they're not a part of. But even if they could, we're only human. And this is what's made America great, is those inventions, creations, breakthroughs that have come out spontaneously by people who are often not even in the field or didn't study in the field in which they're now performing.
Well, the irony is Bill Gates himself is a college dropout. Okay, and he's the one financing a great part of this. Achieve got Gates money, and I mean a lot. And then so did National Governors Association, and so did the Council of Chief State School Officers.
And I just read on Glenn Beck's website yesterday that I think Bill Gates, and I think it's $100 million. I'm not convinced about that, but I think it's $100 million that he's investing into the data marketing. We haven't even talked about the data mining on your students, but how Bill Gates is going to market and capitalize on your students' personal information and selling it to other corporations and companies. There are so many facets of this, and it's so frustrating. I'm seeing my clock wind down. We have just 4 minutes left. Let's just touch base right now. The new generation science standards are concerned here in Iowa. They've been rated only as, I think, a D, and great concern to parents here who are paying attention. You're giving us a great out. Our governor was not the one who signed on to this, and it's a great opportunity for him to back away. Give us quick instruction on that.
I would say that. Yeah, what happened was when the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act was funded, then there were two pots of money separated out of those funds that was given to the U.S. Department of Ed. One of them was Race to the Top, and that's what keeps getting publicized as the incentivizer for the adoption of these standards. But that wasn't it. A pot of money 10 times bigger was state fiscal stabilization funds. And once again, it's administered through the U.S. Department of Ed. And governors in every state signed on for that. And page E1 of that application was 4 assurances from your governor to the U.S. Department of Ed that basically would transform your education system in the state. And so that one of the assurances was, it says academic assessments and academic content standards and student academic achievement standards consistent with sections of the American Competes Act. Well, that's a long story there, but my point is the governor at the time in 2009 signed on for these academic standards. And they were sight unseen. Right. Although I said that these Common Core standards were seeded by the American Diploma Project, and the reading you have to do for that is called Out of Many, 1, Towards Rigorous Common Core Standards from the Ground Up, and that's an Achieve document. Even though I said those standards were seeded by this other document from Achieve, they weren't written. The governor signed on for that money without any ability to read the standards. And then what happened when Race to the Top application was released in July of 2009, those standards still weren't published in final form. They were not ready. No school board of ed could have read and had informed consent for what they were agreeing to adopt.
So we have 60 seconds left.
Okay.
What could our governor do?
Your governor can say, excuse me, I never had an opportunity to read this. It was a former governor who signed on. I am going to call hearings on Common Core and listen to the public about their concerns. And in Indiana, they have stopped implementation until those hearings, which happened this week. Governor Scott Walker has called for this, Governor Rick Scott in Florida, and Governor Bobby Jindal has also voiced concerns about Common Core. Get to your governor, get to your State Board of Ed, most of all, get to your legislators in the House and Senate and inform them about what really went on behind their backs. Because when the governors got state fiscal stabilization funds, the funds went directly to them. Your legislatures knew nothing about it, and that money was then sunk down into your school districts.
Thank you so much.
That's why your legislators are uninformed about this, and you have to do that job.
Your legislators didn't bring it in, but they can stop it. So call your state legislators because they can stop it. We are out of time. Dr. Mary Byrne, thank you so much for joining me today. Orlean from California, Orlean Corley, thank you so much for joining in with us. Orlean's book is Common Core, A Trojan Horse for Educational Reform. And Dr. Mary Byrne, you can find her at Missouri Coalition Against Common Core, MO Against Common Core. And thank you both so much for joining me. I am Tamara Scott. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us at webcast1live.com, webcast1live.com. Have your friends listen to this podcast later if you like, because this information has to get out. Start talking about it over the water cooler, over the backyard fence, over the pew in church, between services if you can. But warn people, because just as if the British were coming, it's the education folks and the Bill Gates brigade that is taking over your schools, and it will not be pretty, and it will not go well for your children or your home. I am Tamara Scott. Join us next week. Thank you so much. Be encouraged. Never be complacent.